Plaintiff Christopher Wills says he started using drugs when he was 19 years old, and he met and befriended the defendant when he eventually went to recovery. Christopher claims he rented a room in the defendant's home, but he's suing him today for a security deposit and unreturned property. Defendant Ronald Ricketts says he too was an addict and has been clean for over 17 years. Ronald claims he allowed Christopher to move in with him because he was homeless and had nowhere to go, but he denies owing him for anything.
Start with you.
Yes, back when I was 19, I started using drugs and alcohol to cope. Didn't fit in, and so I soon found my way into the rooms of recovery, where I had met the defendant, and we began a casual relationship. Anytime I needed help in the rooms, he provided to me.
Help in the what?
In the rooms of recovery.
What is that?
You know, AA, CMA.
I don't know what you mean by the rooms. Are you referring to the meetings?
Yes, I am.
He helped you how in the meeting?
Should I have any guidance issues, or should I need help with, you know, the steps? I had to ask for help with those.
Was he a sponsor?
No, he was not a sponsor.
Okay,
Somebody I reached out to. Mm-hmm. And that was a relationship just as casual as any could be. Years later, after struggling in and out of the rooms, I had also gotten myself into a halfway house. That was September of last year. I was kicked out due to a high balance.
When you moved in, you didn't know you couldn't afford it?
No. I had
You were working when you moved in?
Mm-hmm.
What changed?
What changed was I was working with Tivana, and I transferred to Starbucks. Even though they're part of the same company, I still had to resign my commission with one and start anew with the other.
But you resigned to take less money?
Actually, it was a little bit more money. So there was a 3-week period.
So you got an increase. You didn't lose any money. Well,
I only lost 3 weeks of money because I was starting over with a new company, basically. Okay. So with my new paycheck.
Did you know you were going to get kicked out if you lost 3 weeks?
No, I did not know that.
How did you intend to pay for those 3 weeks?
I didn't know. I mean, I was going to pay them back as soon as I got my paycheck, as in I was signing over.
Did you discuss it with them?
Mm-hmm, I did discuss it with them.
And they said they would accept that?
They said they would accept that.
Did you ask them why they changed their mind?
I didn't ask questions because I didn't feel like I was allowed to. When the financial...
What made you think you couldn't?
The financial administrator made it very clear that if I didn't come up with a certain amount of money by the end of the week, that I'd be out.
Is that the same person that told you they would accept the money?
It is not.
Okay.
Plaintiff Christopher Wills says he met the defendant while in a recovery program for addicts, but he's suing because he claims the defendant owes him for a security deposit and property.
Let's see what happened here. What else?
So while I was homeless, I was actually on the street again, and I was still sober. I was actually awarded, I applied for it through what we call the CUP fund. I got a housing grant. They gave me $1,000 to use as a deposit. Mm-hmm. And I was granted that based upon a lease that we had signed together and sent to them.
You and the defendant?
Yes. Mm-hmm. We drew this lease up together, and that's what we sent, and that's what was approved because of what we sent them. So I used that, and I gave that to Ron. And everything was fine.
What was the agreement regarding that $1,000?
It was first and last month's rent was the deposit.
First and last, and the deposit?
First and last month's rent was the deposit. So it was $500 and $500.
And one would cover the deposit and as well as the last month. Sir, let me hear from you. Let's start with the agreement. What do you want to tell me? Or anything else you want me to know with regard to background with you and the plaintiff?
Well, Your Honor, I met Chris in recovery, like he said. I've been clean and sober for over 17 years. In that time, I've helped a lot of people. A lot of people have helped me. That's what happens in the meetings and recovery. Along the way, I've let people come and stay with me that needed a place to stay and tried to help them out. Chris came to me. We had known each other for a few years, met each other in the rooms, and then he came to me back in January, after I'd seen him come in and go out a few times, and then he showed back up and said he was homeless. And after a couple of days of seeing him come to meetings, I said, well, why don't you come stay at my house for a few days and we'll try to see if we can find a place for you to live. He came to stay. He told me about this thing that he could get from work to get money to help people that were in a bad situation.
The $1,000
yes.
he's referring to?
Yes. Mm-hmm. As far as a lease is concerned, there was never a lease. I never signed a lease. He got the money from his job. He gave me $500 for the first month's rent, which would He had already been there for a couple of weeks.
So he didn't give you $1,000?
He gave me $1,000, $500 for the deposit, and $500 for February's rent.
Okay, that's what he said so far.
Yes, the deposit was not a last month's rent, it was just a deposit.
Is that your disagreement so far?
Yes.
All right. You were suggesting that it was either or. If I don't pay my last month's rent, you keep the deposit.
No.
What are you saying there?
What I'm saying is, what this is for is I gave him $1,000, which was a housing grant, and it says in here that this is where what we had to send a copy of the lease had to be sent to them for the approval of that, and I have that in here if you'd like to take a look at that.
No, I want you to tell me what your agreement with him was,
The agreement was
regarding the deposit. That's the only dispute we have right now.
Okay.
He says the $1,000 you gave him, or the $500, was for rent, and the other $500 was a deposit.
I handed him $1,000 cash. That was the deposit. Now, and then I paid him the following weeks. I paid him $250 every 2 weeks.
You know what you just told me? You said the $1,000 was a deposit.
Yes.
Good enough. What about the first month's rent then?
Okay.
When was that to be paid?
That was to be paid on the first of every month, except we come to an agreement between the two of us. We decided that it would be easier if I paid $250 every 2 weeks.
So you did not pay the first month's rent out of the $1,000.
No.
It was all deposit. And how long after deposit did you pay any rent?
How long after deposit? The following month later, I started paying rent.
1 month later. And so that's when you moved in as well?
Well, I moved in a little bit before that.
And the rent you paid for moving in before that was paid when?
For the first couple of weeks, I didn't have to pay him anything.
Why?
He was letting me stay there out of, I guess, his good
Okay, out of the goodness of his heart.
Right.
Plaintiff Christopher Wills says he met the defendant while in a recovery program for addicts, but he's suing because he claims the defendant owes him for a security deposit and property.
You paid him the $1,000, and he said, okay, first couple weeks are free.
Pretty much.
You mean pretty much?
But, I mean, that's how it happened.
Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that pretty much throws a little problem in your credibility. Whenever folks, that means you're not sure. Because otherwise it would have been yes. It was pretty much. Oh, that's iffy. So you paid him $1,000 and got 2 weeks free. All right. And then you began paying after that 2-week free stay?
I paid him $250 every 2 weeks. Anytime that
No. Let's go back over what I just asked you. Why are you closing your eyes? Are you high?
No.
All right. Well, you're acting like it. Just what you're doing.
Just a little
And
frustrated.
just now when I ask you.
Just a little frustrated.
All right. Well, you want to dismiss the claim?
No,
if
sir.
If you're frustrated, we don't have to go through this.
No, Your Honor.
But I am going to cross-examine you.
I understand,
Because you
Your
sound
Honor.
like you're lying. So I can either just conclude you're lying or I can listen and cross-examine you. I'm just not going to take what you say. Not going to take that as true. Whatever you told people during your addiction and they accepted it, I'm not like that. I don't accept it. Particularly when you do all this. Why won't he take this lie I'm giving him? I told him earlier that the $1,000 was for rent. He should have just accepted it when I changed my story and said the entire $1,000 was for a deposit. And then I didn't pay anything for 2 weeks because he told me I didn't have to. By the way, let me see that signed lease you have that you say you all signed.
We didn't.
Because he said you didn't.
This is not a signed copy of it. I do not have one because when I asked him for
very
that,
good. So you don't have a lease.
No.
All right. You have one? A signed copy.
I don't have a signed copy.
It's unenforceable. He says he didn't sign a copy of a lease.
I understand that.
So I'm more inclined to believe him because you're presenting me with a copy of a lease that, let me see it, that he did not sign. And you say he did sign one?
We signed one together. That's why.
All right, so good. And he says he didn't, and you hand me a lease that neither of you signed.
That's what we, in that document right there is what
I
he
know.
and I
This
came together.
document is different from what he says. And I go with his word because your word has proven to be no good.
I'm just trying to say that that's the document we submitted to the Cup Fund together.
He says he didn't do any of this. So why do you bring me a document that you say he signed that has no such signature?
I didn't say he signed that document.
You did. You said we both signed the document together. Your claim is dismissed for perjury and inconsistency. I believe nothing you say. Have a good day. Your claim is dismissed.
I'm really saddened by the situation. Chris is not a bad person. He's someone who needs recovery. He's had a hard time getting sober. I wish that I could give him what I have, but you have to work for it. People cannot just get recovery. They have to do the work to be recovered.